Euro Fantasy is a game where you can score points for tackles, long shots and more, make substitutions and captain switches during the middle of games and take advantage of the most powerful chip ever seen in fantasy sports. Whether this is your first time playing an international football tournament fantasy game or you just need a refresher, you need a mate to help you out, welcome to FPL Mate. My name is Dan, it's time for your complete guide for Euro 2024 fantasy football. Today, we will be covering everything you need to know before playing the Euro 2024 fantasy game. But if you feel that you are knowledgeable enough on certain aspects of the game or are looking for something in particular, feel free to use the timestamps in this video to find what you're looking for. The first thing we need to do is find the game, and the easiest way to play the game is via the mobile app. Now, you can find the UEFA gaming app on your device's store. Once downloaded, ensure you are on the Euro 2024 section of the app on the left-hand menu. This is the icon you are looking for right here, and you can click on Fantasy Football to get started straight away. You can find the game on desktop or on web browser by heading to UEFA.com, finding the UEFA Euro 2024 in the competitions menu, then in the drop down menu go to gaming and then fantasy football. I know this way is a little bit more complicated, so you can always use the direct link gaming.uefa.com/en/Euro Fantasy to go to the English language version of the game. I'll leave this link in the video description too for browsers users to check out. But now we've made our first step.
EA Sports.
We're in the game. If you played Fantasy Premier League, Fantasy Champions League, or any other similar game before, this might be familiar to you. You have a budget of 100 million to select 15 players that make up your fantasy squad. 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 forwards. In the first stage of the tournament, you can select a maximum of 3 players per nation. So if you had any plans of selecting the entire France squad as your fantasy team, well, you're fresh out of luck. hzfCWh. You should also select your starting 11 and captain for your team. Your chosen captain will be awarded double points, and your substitutes will automatically switch in for any of your starting 11 players who do not play any minutes during a match day. More on match days soon. There's a little more to be said about captains and substitutes, so we will cover it in more detail in the in-play management section of this video. For now, all I'll say is pick a strong squad, not just a strong first 11. And by strong, I mean players who are likely to score a lot of points. The aim of Euro Fantasy is to score as many points as possible, more points than your rivals, ensuring that your elite ball knowledge is the envy of your friends. So make sure you are picking players that are most likely to score points as per the scoring system that is a little bit more detailed than you may be used to. So let's go over scoring. The deeper a player plays on the field, the more points they will score for scoring a goal. Goalkeepers and defenders will score 6 points for scoring a goal, although don't expect too many goalkeeper goals during the tournament. Midfielders score 5 points per goal and forwards just 4 points. Now, goalkeepers and defenders will also score points for defensive actions. 4 points if their team keeps a clean sheet whilst they're on the field. These players must play on the field for a minimum of 60 minutes to score those clean sheet points. Midfielders are also awarded 1 clean sheet point for the same situation, but forwards, they cannot score clean sheet points. It's not their job, to be fair. Goalkeepers gain 1 point for every 3 saves they make, an additional 5 points if they save a penalty. Goalkeepers and defenders who concede goals can also lose points, -1 point for every 2 goals conceded. So that's pretty simple so far. You want to pick midfielders and forwards who are going to score you goals, and defenders and goalkeepers who won't concede goals. Well, this is where things get fun. All players can score points in the following ways. 1 point for playing, an additional 1 point for playing more than 60 minutes in a game, 3 points for making an assist, and FPL players, get ready for some surprises here. 2 points for winning a penalty, 1 point for every 3 ball recovery, so think tackles and interceptions, an additional point for scoring a goal from outside the box, and 3 points for being the official UEFA player of the match. So in Euro Fantasy, it's not just about scoring goals, assists, and keeping clean sheets. Defenders and defensive midfielders are rewarded for their tackling, so players like Rodri and Declan Rice, they are back on the menu. Long shooters and free kick scorers like Kevin De Bruyne, they're rewarded for their efforts from range, and the top performers in the match will gain points through the player of the match points system. Euro Fantasy gives us more options than ever when it comes to picking players for our fantasy team, with a variety of different styles of players all viable. And before we wrap up this section, note that players can also lose points for other other actions too, and even go into the minus points if things get bad enough. Getting minus points can be done by yellow cards, red cards, scoring own goals, missing penalties, and also conceding penalties. If your player gives away a penalty during the match, they will get some minus points there. So be wary of picking any of those hot-headed players. Euro Fantasy is divided into 7 match days across the competition. From each match day to the next, you can make transfers in your team, change your starting 11 and captain, and opt to play your chips. More on that shortly. FPL managers, these are the equivalent of the game weeks you may be familiar with, but not all match days are created equal, and there are some things to make note of. This is how it works. Despite their confusing name, match days actually take place over the course of several days. Put simply, each match day contains a round of fixtures in which every team remaining in the tournament has played once. For the group games, that means match day 1 begins when Germany plays Scotland on the 14th of June and ends when Portugal finish their game against Czechia on the 18th of June. Match day 2 begins when the first team plays their second game, which will be Croatia versus Albania on the 19th of June. Again, ending when every team has completed their second game. The same again happens in matchday 3, after which all of the group stages will have finished. Matchday 4 will contain all 8 of the round of 16 fixtures. Matchday 5 will contain all 4 of the quarter-final fixtures. Matchday 6 will contain the 2 semi-finals fixtures. And finally, Matchday 7, the only true match day, will contain the final alone. Remember, there is no third place playoff in the Euros tournament, so Matchday 7 is going to take place in just one game, the final. For certain match days, the rules for making transfers and the rules for the amount of players you are allowed from each nation changes. Before match day 1, you can make unlimited free transfers. For match day 2 and 3, you can make 2 free transfers per round. Before match day 4, you can again make unlimited free transfers to your team, allowing you to have a full new squad refresh with so many teams being knocked out of the tournament at this stage. You will then be given 3 free transfers to use before match day 5, 4 free transfers before matchday 6, and finally 5 free transfers before matchday 7, the final. Any additional transfers you make after your free transfers have run out, each round will incur a penalty of 4 points, meaning 4 points will be subtracted from your total score. Now, it's fine to make additional transfers from time to time, but only if you think it will be worthwhile. It's advisable to avoid making too many of those additional transfers, otherwise your score is just going to go down, down, down. In the group stages, you can pick a maximum of 3 players from each nation. As teams are eliminated before the round of 16, in matchday 4, you can now choose 4 players from each nation. So it's a good idea to load up on players you think will advance further in the tournament. Matchday 5 quarterfinals, you can now select up to 5 players from each nation. Matchday 6 semifinals, you can now select up to 6 players from each nation. And finally, for the matchday 7 final, you can select up to 8 players from the 2 remaining teams. Your matchday 7 squad is basically just going to contain players from the 2 finalists. And by the way, guys, if you're finding this video useful so far, please consider subscribing to the channel. We will be dropping loads of videos with more fantasy tips, best players to pick for your team, and pro-level strategies. Stick around, it might help you find that hidden gem player that your rivals never saw coming. Subscribing to FPL Mate could help you improve your scores and rank, and what have you got to lose? It's free after all. Your deadlines for making any changes to your teams, including transfers, captains, lineups, and chips, will take place at the moment the first game in each match day kicks off. That means you can wait for the official team sheets to be announced for the first game of each match day before locking in your decisions. That's a really good tip there, guys, by the way. You're going to get the team sheets an hour before the first kickoff of the match day, so why not wait around to see if there's any surprises in there. Let's talk about chips. Now, chips give you the power to make special changes to your squad. There are 2 different chips. You can use each of them once during the tournament, and you can use them on any match day except match day 1 and match day 4. This is because on match day 1 and 4, you can already make unlimited transfers. And as you'll soon discover, the 2 chips in Euro Fantasy are all about making unlimited transfers. So, the wildcard. Fantasy Premier League managers, you will already know all about this one. The wildcard chip allows you to make unlimited free transfers during a match day in which you would ordinarily be unable to do so. If your squad needs a complete refresh and free transfers alone can't give you the team you desire, you don't want to take any points deduction, well, it might be a sign that you need to use your wildcard chip. Any transfers you make whilst using the wildcard chip will be permanent until you use transfers in the future to change your team once again, and you can activate your wildcard chip even after you have begun making transfers, as long as the match day hasn't kicked off yet. And if you have made any additional transfers incurring any points deductions, that will be removed. They'll be wiped from your match day score. You won't have to worry about the points deduction anymore, because your wildcard chip, well, you're allowed to make as many transfers as you want. Go crazy. The Limitless chip is a bit more of a fun one. It allows you to make unlimited transfers for one match day only, but you also get an unlimited budget. Mbappe, Ronaldo, Kane, De Bruyne, welcome to the team. The possibilities are, well, limitless, but there is one catch. Once the match day in which you use your Limitless chip has concluded, your team will be reverted back to whatever it looked like before you played the chip. So, for example, if you use the Limitless chip in Matchday 2, when Matchday 2 concludes, your Matchday 3 squad will have all of the players you selected way back in Matchday 1. Note that any attempted permanent transfers you try to make during the matchday you play your Limitless chip will be cancelled, as well as any points deduction. You cannot make permanent transfers and play your Limitless chip in the same matchday. It sadly doesn't work like that. FPL managers think free hit chip, but with unlimited budget. That's basically how the Limitless chip works. Alright, in-play management. Now this, in my opinion, is the best thing about Euro Fantasy. In-play management of your fantasy team. This allows you to take greater control of your team and have your efforts rewarded. Of course, everything we're about to talk about is completely optional, but if you're looking to get the edge over your rivals, in-play management is the way to go. Let's break down this topic into two sections: in-play captain switches and in-play substitutions. The simplest way to manage your team in play is through captain switching, and this is how it works. So, as we know, your matchday captain will score double points, so it's important that you captain a player who is going to score a lot of points. But if your captain doesn't score as many points as you were hoping, you can change it to someone else in hope that your next choice will do even better. You move your captain's armband to another player in your team who is, 1, in your starting 11, and 2, plays on a later day to your current captain. Note that I said later day. If your captain plays in a game at 2 p.m. on a Monday, for example, and you are unhappy with their score, you cannot change your captain to another player who plays in the 8 p.m. fixture of the same day. You have to switch them to a player who plays on the Tuesday or Wednesday, perhaps. You can only change your captain to a player who plays the following day or beyond. This also means the captain switching feature also works like a stick or twist system. Once you have changed your captain to a new player, there are no takesies, backsies. If you switch to a new captain and your new captain scores less points than your original captain, that's too bad. You can only move your captaincy forward to a player who is yet to play, and never backwards to a player who has already played. You can change your captains as many times as there are calendar days within a match day, but only forward, never backward. Let's take a look at how this might work in practice. So here we have an example. The date is the 14th of June. Germany are about to face Scotland in the opening day of the tournament. My matchday 1 captain is gonna be Florian Wirtz, but I have a few other players in my squad who I think will make pretty good captains too. Now, Wirtz only scores 3 points, doubled to 6. A little disappointing, but at least I can switch my captain to another player. Now, I do have Harry Kane playing on the 16th of June. I think he'll make a better captain, but since I can continue to switch forwards if things don't work out, we may as well try out Szoboszlai for Hungary for my new captain. Surely he can score more than 3 points. Oh dear. A yellow card and a goal conceded leaves him with just 1 point. I wish I could switch my captain back to Wirtz now, but I can't. Captains can only move forwards in days and never backwards. Harry Kane, you're up. Great. A goal against Serbia lands Kane on 6 points, doubled to 12. Now, do we stick on Kane captain or twist to another player? Well, I think we can do better, but we have an issue. De Bruyne and Mbappe both play on the same day. That means I can only choose one or the other. Picking De Bruyne as my new captain would lock me out of Mbappe because they both play on the same day. Picking Mbappe, of course, would lock me out of De Bruyne, since we can only switch the captains to a player who hasn't played yet. And by the time Mbappe has played, well, De Bruyne will have played as well. I'm I'm going to go with Mbappe. A goal, an assist, and 3 additional points awarded for being player of the match. 12 points doubled to 24, and now that is what I call a successful captain. Looks like I made the right choice there, but I also have Bernardo Silva playing on the 19th of June. One more opportunity to switch captains. Stick or twist, twist or stick, nope. 24 points is a great score. I'm not going to be greedy here. I'm going to stick. Mbappe is locked as my captain. Phew, a strong score of 7 points for Bernardo, but I made the right choice. Matchday 1 is over, and I stuck with Mbappe as my captain. Now, as you can see in this example of captain switching, I identified one player on each day that I thought would make a great captain. I kept switching forward each day until my captain scored a score that I was happy with. And as soon as I was happy, I stopped twisting and I stuck with what I had. In this example, things worked out, but it's not always going to be straightforward. Sometimes you will have a really tough decision whether to stick or twist, or maybe you want to switch it up and things don't go to plan. And sometimes you will have a decision that you make, it will backfire. That's all part of the game, and the highs and lows are what makes it all so much fun. Now, in-play substitutions are a little more complicated, but I think if you understand captain switching, then this should make a little more sense to you. Remember though, in-play management is optional. If you don't want to do it, or maybe you just want to do the whole captain switching thing, that's absolutely fine. But this is how in-play substitutions work. In the same way as you have identified players that you want to captain on each day, you should do a similar thing with your overall squad. Let's go straight in with an example on this one. Here is an example of a squad for match day 1. As you can see, I've included all of my players starting earlier on in the match day in my starting 11. My players who play later on in the match day are all on the bench. This is all in preparation for my in-play substitutions. So, okay, we're 3 days into the tournament. I'm not totally happy with my scores. Germany conceded a goal to Scotland, and Xhaka, well, it turns out he was just a bad pick. Thankfully, I have a bench full of players ready to sub on. Now, like captains, you can sub out any player in your squad for any player who hasn't played their fixture yet. With one exception, players who receive a red card cannot be substituted out. They are locked in your starting 11. If one of my subs has already played their fixture, well, that's too bad. They're locked on my bench. That's why I ensured that my bench are players that play later within the match day. Substitutions only work forward in time and never backwards, just like captains. And once you've made a switch, you can't reverse it. And one more thing, you can only make a total of 4 switches. That includes any reordering of your bench. Cool, I have all of the information I need. My squad was previously set up, ready for this situation. I'm going to switch out Tat and Mittelstadt for Castagna and Teat. I'm also going to switch out Xhaka for Bruno. I have the option to make a 4th switch of Mvogo to Lunin, but I think I'll stick with Mvogo. Well, the match day is complete. Castagna and Teat was a success. Bruno didn't score any more points than Xhaka, which is disappointing. I also probably should have made the Lunin substitution, but never mind, I played the cards that I was dealt. Overall, my in-play substitutions were a success. I gained points compared to if I had just left my team as it was, and all it took was checking my scores during the match day and choosing to twist on a couple of players who performed poorly, ensuring my bench was set up with players who had not played yet at the moment I wanted to make my in-play subs. Now, just one more note on this, you can switch in players for players of different positions, changing your formation during the match day. That's absolutely fine. If I wanted to switch in a Castagna for a Saka, for example, I could have done that as well. That would have been fine. But in this example, it was my defenders who didn't score very well, and those were the players I wanted to replace. So you can change formations within the match day using those substitutions as long as your match day ends with a valid formation. That's the important thing here. One thing to note about making in-play substitutions is that as soon as you make just one move, your team will no longer make the automatic substitutions we mentioned earlier in the video. So you basically have a choice each match day, manual substitutions or automatic ones. And my choice will always be manual. This is the way. And guys, by the way, if you found any of these explanations useful, please do consider leaving a like. It really does mean a lot to me and the channel. And if you want to introduce any of your friends to this fantasy game, share this video with them. Not only will it teach them the basics to allow them to start playing, but also I hope this video will get many people excited and enthusiastic about playing this awesome fantasy game. So share it out and spread the love of fantasy sports. The final thing I want to talk about in this video is private leagues. This is a great way to compete directly with your friends, families, colleagues, or worst, rivals, if that's what you want to do as well. Whoever you want to get involved, you can get involved by setting up a league. And it's really easy to do as well. Head to the league section on the website or app, create a league, name it. Name it something good though, guys, and it'd be interesting to hear some of your league names. And then you can invite other people by copying the image, the league code, or sharing the direct link. Remember, if you want to invite someone to your league who might be unfamiliar with this particular fantasy game, consider sharing this video with them to help them get up to speed. And finally, everyone watching this video is invited to join the FPL Mate YouTube League. Maybe you don't have any friends to play with, but that's absolutely fine. We've got mates over here at the FPL Mate channel. Also, if you want to join multiple leagues, that's cool too. We'll welcome you. We'll also sort out some prizes for the winners. Haven't decided on prizes yet, but it's likely to be football shirts and products from our merch store, fanprints.uk. So come and get involved using the code on screen or the link in the video description. I'm looking forward to competing with all of you. Can you beat the mate? Let's see. If you have any other questions about the game, the rules, or players to pick for your team, please leave a comment. I'll be answering as many as I can. And before you leave, do consider liking the video, subscribing for more fantasy football videos, including Euro fantasy football videos almost every day. And if you feel like a fantasy football binge, check out another video here. But until next time, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates.